Hi guys, so we're continuing on this week with Tantric Tuesday's concept of seeing your blind spots and using your partner, your family member, your friends, the intimate people in your life as mirrors to be able to see your blind spots and to help you do the work that you need to do. And it's such a big, impactful concept for us to wrap our beanies around that I wanted to give you like a follow-up video that explains a little bit more and explores this topic a little bit more. So I want to start with a little bit of the background of and the history of where I got this and how this concept gelled for me and which teachers and guides I learned from, and then I will talk to you about where I use it in my daily intimate connection and practices and some tools that I found are helpful there. So blind spots. I was listening to a podcast, the Michael Taft Deconstructing podcast, and he had this woman on who was an avid meditator, and she just wrote a book about blind spots. How to see them, ferret them out, why it might be good to do that, how they can help us, all that sort of stuff. And what was really cool is she started off, and she was actually talking about just at a fundamental level that we all actually have physical blind spots. Literally, there's a spot in the lens where we actually have to every day fill in the hole. It's like nothing comes through that blind spot. It's like we see all this out here, but this little tiny blind spot we don't see, so we fill in based on the peripheral, based on our beliefs, based on our past, based on our colors, history, based on all these other things, we like fill in the gap. And that's what's happening in our life when we have blind spots that we're not looking at. And a blind spot may be a topic that you just don't even want to delve into. It may be a topic like religion or politics where you say, oh, I already know that. I follow this religion or I follow this political path. And you don't think that doesn't give you a blind spot because you're dead to that knowledge? That's a blind spot. A blind spot is allowing your ego and our crazy mind to say, oh, I don't do that. Oh, he always does that. I don't ever do that. Or I'm not like her. Or I don't do. We have blind spots all over, from the boardroom to the bedroom. And if we think we don't, then think again. We all do. We have 100 blind spots in our relationship, in our life, in our world that we don't see, that we color and we fill in. When we have a blind spot, emotionally, physically, mentally, a blind spot, you better bet your ass our little thinking egoic mind can't leave that blank. It can't go, oh, there's a hole right there. It has to go, oh, there's a hole right there, and I'm going to fill it in with all this knowledge. And okay, looks pretty. Paste it up. Okay, there's no blind spot. Look away, look away. Don't even worry about this. That's what's happening. So think of the growth and the self-knowledge, learning to know thyself, benefits you could get from learning to honestly, truthfully, nakedly see your blind spots without your ego coming to the forefront, seeing them nakedly, not automatically wanting to fill in the story, but allowing yourself to just sit and resonate with that whole. That space, that emptiness, that space of inquiry, that space for possibility, that space for growth, that space for potentiality, for creativity, to just be able to go, wait, I'm going to hold this space. And instead of letting my mind and my ego and my past history and my judgments come in and just automatically fill it in and paint the picture for me, I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to let it resonate in me. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to work through it sensorially, and then I'm going to honestly use that blind spot as a tool, as a growth potential. Yes, blind spots are either a place we ignore and fill up and mirage over, or it could be a potentiality for growth, a springboard for growth and change and awesomeness. Yes, I'm going to choose this with my blind spots. So how does this look like in a relationship? Why would you want to start here? First of all, why would you want to look at blind spots in a relationship? Because I'm going to tell you, it's probably the hardest place to look at your blind spots in sex, sexuality, intimacy, connection. This is where shame and fear and doubt and I'm not good enough and all the society norms, and this is where we can be our smallest. But if we could turn our blind spots and start that self-inquiry, it could be a place of massive expansion and growth to move from. If in this place of sexuality and intimacy and connection, I can be honest with my lovers at this space level, and I could be bold and intimate and open up that space to play in, you could do it here and you could do it here without batting a fucking eye. Like, if you could get it here, the rest of it's gravy, baby. Okay, so how does that look like with your partner? First of all, if you're doing this practice of Tantra on your own, intimate connection, intimacy, learning to see your own blind spots, you can do this part of it on your own as well. You start to listen to the cues that your partner tells you. You step back, try not to judge them, try not to fall into the button pushing habit patterns that you get into, and you start to unpack what they're telling you and hear it from a different lens, from a different gestalt, from a different set of ears than you have heard it from before. Pull back the ego, drop it back down, and just listen to the nakedness of what's coming out of their mouth. And if it's not abusive and it's honest, then you sit with that shit and you start to work it through, and you do your own work, your Byron Katie work, or you meditate on it. An example of how you might look at this in another way is, you've all gone to a yoga class and you learn how to unpack the layers of blind spots in the physicality of your yoga practice all the time. So for example, we'll go in and we'll hold this posture and we're like, I can do this, I can totally do this, I can totally do this. And then after about the 5th class, we're like, I really can't do this. Okay, I really can't do this, and I shouldn't do this, and I'm stressing my shoulders out, and I'm doing this, and I've got to find a better way to align because I am bullshitting myself thinking I can handle this posture. And then when we get to that point, that's where we actually see the blind spot, and we see the mirage that we threw over it. Like, I can do this, I can do that. That's the mirage. That's us filling in the blind spot. And then finally we're like, okay, that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for my body. I'm coming here to de-stress and strengthen my body and work on my flexibility, and none of that's happening here. So how do I now see the blind spot, not fill in the hole, see the truth, get some advice from the teacher, start learning alignment in my body, start learning to connect to my breath, my energy levels, know where to modify and back off in the pose, to start from a new place of modification, to start from a new place of like, I am now in integrity with my lever points and my muscle strength and my flexibility levels, and now I start from, I see the blind spot, I realign myself, now I take it from there. Yes? So that's an example of it on the physical level. An example with a partner would be holding a space of honesty and connection and intimacy, that you know that when that partner brings something up to show us a blind spot, something we've not been wanting to see, or something just to kind of encourage us to move forward, it comes from the space of love and intimacy and connection and permission. We've given our partner the permission to say, hey, if you see something, let's communicate. And to give your partner the permission to call you out on your shit, but in a nice, healthy, delicious, supportive, intimate way. Not in an abusive way, not a judgmental way. We are going to use our partners. I just got done with the Byron Katie book, Loving What Is, and she said, use the people in your life. They're there to teach you a lesson. So using your partner as a mirror, your relationships, your friendships with your loved ones, your mom, your sister, all these people were put in your life and they're here, and you've not ixnayed them out of your life. So obviously they're here, and if they cause you strife or grief, or they bring stuff up, they're there to use as a tool to grow from, to learn from, to love. And in the process from growing and learning, you learn to also love them at a deeper level, and to love yourself at a deeper level. And you build that intimacy up. So when you're doing this practice with your partner, it's really important to, we were together for 20 years or so when we started to really delve into like, we're going to peel back that layer. And we had to, first of all, see that when he would say something to me or I would say something to him, it wasn't our first gut instinct reaction of, oh, you're just saying that because you're being a dick, or you're pushing my buttons, or my reaction from that, my ego coming up, my self-defense mechanism coming up, to just saying, oh, could I sit with that? And could it be true? And if it's true, it's okay. We have this such mentality in mindfulness and yoga and all this community to be like, you can't think any bad thoughts, you're not supposed to experience any bad sensations. It's all flowers and fluffy sunshine. That's bullshit. We experience just as many deeper, darker emotions as we do lighter emotions. And it's the stifling of those emotions. It's when that comes up and your partner points out to you something and you go, and you tense up and you tighten up, and then there's fear, and then there's shame, and then there's anger. I'm like, how dare you say that to me? And you feel all those sensations. So it's about having a space where you practice continuously with your partner to have the space of like, I'm going to sit with that feeling. I'm going to sit with that sensation. I'm going to allow it to work through my body, and I'm not going to place my automatic judgments on it and off to the races. I'm just going to sit here with it. And then learn that they're doing it out of love and compassion. And it may take a little bit of time. We're switching, we're changing the gestalt from our automatic reaction to non-action at first, allowing that to resonate and come forward. And the thing that really helped us was we got to a point where we could reset our central nervous systems like that. And that was key, because when someone pushes an old button, or they bring something up that you don't want to inquire, a blind spot that you're like, oh, I don't think that's a blind spot. I've just covered over that in my mind, and there's a mirage there. We have a natural tendency to get all riled up in the nervous system. Fight or flight kicks in. Hormones come up. Adrenaline. Heart starts racing. When those things start to come up and emotion comes up at the same time, then we're toast. Like, we're done for. We're toast in that. Unless we can hold that space of like, ooh, what does that feel like? When you get to be a really good meditator and you're at that level, you feel all of that, and it can come up and it can rile up and it can roar up like a big fucking storm. And most of the time you're good enough to kind of sit through it and just let it whirl around. But when it comes up at first, you need tools and mechanisms to reset your central nervous system. And I was reading in one of my books, I'm gonna do a podcast on some really great books that I've read, but one of the authors was talking about how important it is to reset that central nervous system, and that it takes about 15 minutes, if you're untrained, to just get your mind totally off that topic, totally off that subject. So if you've overshot and your partner came in and tried to point something out to you, and then you took it the wrong way, or they didn't do it in a very tactful way, and then buttons were pushed and shit hit the fan and you're off to the races, you've got to have some mechanism to pull back, because you have to be kind and loving and compassionate to each other while you're doing this process, or it's just going to be counterintuitive. And so you need those skill sets to be able to reset your central nervous system. And it may be that you're like, I'm taking off, I'm going to a yoga class, or I'm going to go down and meditate for 15 minutes. If you can meditate and not focus on that issue, or you can focus on that issue and let it burn through, or you read a book. You got to do something that totally gets your head out for 15 minutes to reset your central nervous system. And it has to be that you're not stewing on that thought, or that comment, why would he say that? Oh, yeah. And then you come back, and then a few minutes later you're like, no, you need like a good 15 minutes of complete decompression time to reset your central nervous system, to allow the cortisol, the adrenaline to come back down, your blood pressure to drop back down. So we developed like a timeout, literally. If we were heading into that land, I'd just say, we need a timeout. We had a term for it. And if you have children, you can figure out, this was a great suggestion from one of the books we read. You figure out who's going to watch the kids and what you're going to do there. And then you just say, I need a timeout. Or you just say Saturn, or whatever the hell your word is for it. And like at that moment, I'm calling a timeout in a positive, good way. I'm calling it a timeout because I love you and I love me, and I've got some shit working up to the surface, and I really want to step back for a minute before it overflows and before we get into this mode. Yes. So, and then over time, you'll find ways to bring that time down to, like, sometimes I'll be right in the thick of it with my partner and we'll just laugh at each other and go, and then we both realize like how childish we are, and we just laugh about it, and then it just like it rolls right off. We drop it. It just gets dropped like that. And that takes time and commitment and work, especially the longer you are with that person, or even the more baggage you have, you're bringing into it yourself. We're all decompressing working through our own shit at different levels. And if you have shit to work through together and individually, just be patient and kind with yourself through this process. That's all that it's about, is just being patient and kind with yourself through this process. And the next thing you need to be is fucking honest, truthful. And you think, what in the hell, when are we getting to the sex? You keep talking about conscious connection and sexuality in these videos. We're getting to it. It's a build-up, but I'll tell you, the biggest fucking turn on in the bedroom is that raw, naked intimacy, honesty, like honesty at a level that you can open up and go all in and get intimate, but you can't do that without being truthful and honest. So the next aspect to this practice with your partner is you have to get honest and be able to hold that space of honestly looking at yourself and seeing the truth around your habits, around your relationship habits, around your habits of how you think about this topic because of your past beliefs. And to really just get honest and then be able to communicate that honesty with your partner. And to invite that honesty into yourself and to your relationship as often as you can. Meet it, greet it, welcome it, bring it in. Because so much of our life, this is what we're talking about, you guys. Those blind spots, us filling in those blind spots, that's not honest. That's, I'm going to guess, or I'm going to put my belief here. And once we get honest and can see that space, then we can be comfortable with it not filling in automatically and just sit with it and be with it. And really the growth and the change happens from there. The last thing I'll tell you is to be kind to your lover, to your partner while you're doing this, and to move at their level. You've got to move at their pace. There's a beautiful exercise that I learned about from my energy medicine book. She was a physician who had a physical illness that should have been cured completely from Western medicine, a surgery or some kind of procedure that she did, and it didn't go away. And so she turned to shamanic, traditional teachings outside the box, outside the Western world of medicine, and see, why am I still holding on to this or storing this or whatever. And she was a classically trained Western female doctor. She put a bunch of exercises and practices through the book. One of them was, when you get in a big fight with your partner, when you come to that place where you're like, take your 15-minute, reset your central nervous system time, and then when you come back together, you do it slowly. She had you do this intimate practice where you stood like 50 feet apart in the backyard or in the one in one room and one in the other room. And you looked at your partner, if you could look at them. If not, you look down at the ground and you just know they're standing in front of you. They're 50 feet away. And you can feel them, because if you have a sexual connection to them, you should be able to feel them from 50 feet away. And this will help you hone that if you can't. And you feel them in that space, and you start to come into a space with you where maybe slowly you can look at them and you can make eye contact. And you slowly get to a place where you can walk towards each other. And one person may walk this far, and one person may walk this far. Or you may meet in the middle. And it doesn't really matter. You're just slowly working towards, as I take every step closer towards you, or towards reconnecting with you, I am slowly letting go of the baggage and my story. And I've reset my central nervous system, and I'm present. And I remind myself I do want to see these blind spots, and this is so healthy, and I love you, and I want to have amazing off the charts connection, and I do see you, and you like slowly start to come together. It's like a remembering and a letting go at the same time of the shit you need to let go and the shit you need to remember as you come together. So that was a beautiful practice. You could do that in Yabyum too. There's a beautiful practice of Tantric connection, YABYUM. I've talked about it a little bit before too. You could do that there. All right, guys, I know that was a lot to unpack, but I would say of all the things that we practiced and that we tried, this was the most profoundly, positively, growth-building, impactful. So it's worth it, you guys. Go there if you dare. Namaste.